This video is on calculating angle measures. We can use what we learned about angles from the vocabulary exploration activity to calculate angle measures. Let's review some of these concepts. Vertical angles are non-adjacent angles that are formed by intersecting lines, and vertical angles are congruent. So in the diagram below, angles 1 and 2 are vertical angles, so angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and 3 and 4 are vertical angles, so angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Complementary angles are two angles with measures that have a sum of 90 degrees. So in the diagram below, angles 1 and 2 are adjacent complementary angles. Remember, adjacent means they're right next to each other. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90. And you know that they're 90 because they actually show you this little red box here. This makes that a right angle. Angles A and B are non-adjacent complementary angles because 65 plus 25 is equal to 90. So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles are two angles with measures that have a sum of 180 degrees. In the diagram below, angles 3 and 4 are not only supplementary angles, but they also form a linear pair since they are adjacent to each other. Angles 3 and 4 together make a straight line, so they add up to 180, so they're supplementary. But because they share this ray, they are adjacent to each other, and recall that that's what we call a linear pair. Angles P and Q are also supplementary angles since 120 plus 60 is equal to 180. So those are two angles add up to 180 degrees. An angle bisector, An angle bisector is a ray that creates two congruent angles. So in the diagram below, ray YW bisects angle XYZ. So angle XYW is congruent to angle WYZ, and they've noted that by showing that they're both equal to 80 degrees. So an angle bisector cuts an angle into two congruent angles. Perpendicular lines form right angles, and right angles measure 90 degrees. So in the diagram below, if line PR is perpendicular to line SQ, and if you're not familiar with it, this is the symbol for perpendicular. So PR is perpendicular to SQ, then it creates four right angles. Angle PTQ, angle QTR, angle RTS, and angle STP. All of those are right angles, and each measures 90 degrees. So let's use some of these to solve a couple problems here. And I think I have three examples. First one says, let's find the measure of angle QRT. So here we have line QRS, which is a straight line, and ray RT coming out of it. So these actually form a linear pair, so they're supplementary and add up to 180 degrees. So I can say the measure of angle QRT plus the measure of angle TRS is equal to 180. So I'm given an algebraic expression for QRT, which is 9x, and an algebraic expression for TRS, which is 3x. That equals 180. And from here I can just go ahead and solve this algebraically. And dividing both sides by 12, x is equal to 15, but I'm not done. This isn't like algebra where we just stop when we find x. We have to plug it back in. So the measure of angle QRT is 9x. So the measure of QRT, which is what I have to find, is 9 times 15, or 9 times 15 is 135. So angle QRT is 135 degrees. Here's another example. Here we have two adjacent angles, and it says if the measure of angle MAR is equal to 124, we need to find x. So I know that the measure of angle MAC, which is this angle right here, plus the measure of angle CAR is equal to 124 because they told me that. MAC is 6x minus 11. CAR is 4x minus 25. And once again, I'm back in algebra land. So 10x minus 36 equals 124. Adding 36 to each side gives me 160. X equals 16. And let's go back and read the problem. So I did just have to find x. So I'm finished with that one. And one last example here. It says if ray AB bisects angle DAC, I need to find x. Well, if AB bisects this angle, which notice it has this little box in the corner, so I know that the measure of angle DAC is 90 degrees. It's a right angle. I know that these two angles are the same because that ray bisects them. So I can say 2 times 7x minus 4 equals 90 degrees because that ray bisects a 90-degree angle. I could also say, I know that half of 90 is 45, so I could go ahead and say 7x minus 4 equals 45, which is the same thing I'd get if I divided both sides of this by 2. But I'm just going to go ahead and distribute and add 8 to both sides. And dividing both sides by 14, x is equal to 7. So in this video we took a look at how to calculate angle measures. We reviewed some of the concepts and some of the terminology and definitions with regard to angles and their measures and saw how to use them in 3 specific problems.